Well, my first big girl job ever was with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it as like it's the like wedding yearbook, you know, for Nebraska. Like, and it's kind of like a little time capsule, you know, to look back and be like, this is what weddings were like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know? I love that. And it's not just like going through a checklist anymore. It's like that kind of stuff makes it just like intentional and like so personal.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Vendor Chronicles from Startup to Success, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of weddings and gives you an in-depth analysis from the perspective of the unsung heroes, the vendors. I'm your host, Ether.
And I'm Cornell.
And today we have a super exciting guest all the way from Minneapolis, Brooke, the publisher for Nebraska Wedding Day. So how are you doing, Brooke?
Hi, good. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm so happy to be on the podcast with you guys.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. It's great that we had this timing of, you know, having the mixer last night and then you're able to make it here
Worked
right
out
before
perfect.
you head back. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, worked out perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with us. And, you know, we've worked with you quite a bit in the past. And I think that's one of the things that we really love, you know, is just for us as vendors, like we you know, create relationships with the couples, and we love to be able to do that. But I think it's just as important, you know, for us to be able to create relationships with the vendors as well. You know, there's people that we just absolutely love and admire in this industry, and you're definitely one of those people.
Yes.
So yeah, we couldn't be more excited.
Oh, yeah, it's our vendor support group, right? I mean, you got to mix and mingle, and yeah, it's so important. And we're so happy to do these to celebrate, like, yes, the new issue, but also just to get everyone together. Like, that's what I always say all the time too. Like, let's celebrate the fact that like another wedding season was survived and we're about to go into another one, and let's just take we just need to celebrate. Everyone good? Everyone here?
Yeah.
How's everyone do? You know, like, I think that's so important and fun for everybody. So
We were just talking about that actually last night. You know, with vendors, people on the outside, you know, looking in, maybe they see like the Instagram posts or like the Instagram stories, and they're like, oh my gosh, that looks so fun,
glamorous. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it looks amazing. But you know, on the other side of it is all of that hard work that all these vendors are doing, and it's a long process, and you know, it's a grind. And you know, I'm not trying to make it seem like we have terrible jobs and like we're, you know, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. And so to be able to have events where we can just chill, hang out, take a step back, and just you know, enjoy the company of other vendors is really cool. So
and also be among people who understand, like, you're not alone, you know, like everybody is doing that same, like, just wanting to give people the best day. And everyone, like, when you're around those people who appreciate like your day in and day out, it's important.
I just want to further emphasize my appreciation for the experience we've had with Nebraska Wedding Day, and just how the execution with the events has been just flawless. Everyone's super friendly. It's just always very welcoming. And I feel like it's just so well put together and organized, and that everything's spaced really well throughout the year too, so that we can get together and celebrate each other and get to know each other too. So.
Well, I wish I could say thank you and like we do all the work, but literally we just like pick this dream team, and like, you know, like we get kind of all of these members on a silver platter, and like it's really pretty amazing how little work we have to do, to be honest, because everybody works together so well. Everybody's just like pure professionals and knows what to do and when to do it and how to interact with each other. So like it's kind of magic, you know? Like, that's my superpower, is just getting all like the dream team together, and that's it. I'm just like, cool, I'll show up. I know it's going to be amazing, you know? So.
But I also think even in that though, like creating, you know, a team that can put on an event. Obviously in weddings, that's really important. But I think even just specifically with Nebraska Wedding Day, like, I don't know, for us, I mean, like our origin story, I mean, it really, Nebraska Wedding Day was like a huge turning point for us.
It was,
okay, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, for sure, because, you know, we've been doing this for about, 8 years now? Yeah, and, you know, we've had kind of like steady growth. You know, in our first year, we did like, I want to say like maybe 5 events or something, like 5 to 7.
Yep.
And obviously we were super excited for that. We're like, oh my gosh, like we're so busy. We got so much.
We're killing it.
Yeah. And then I think the next year we had like 15 or whatever. And we're
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
come
amazing.
on. We're going to have to slow down. We got too much going on here.
I love
Yeah.
But we've had kind of like this steady growth and everything. And we've been able to get our name out through various avenues, and we've had, word of mouth and all these things. But I think it was in, 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2021, we sat down and we were like, hey, we need to make a conscious effort to like be involved in some of these groups and go to these, mixers.
Yep.
So we ended up going to a mixer.
Yeah.
And we were networking and everything. We met Nicole,
Yep.
who was previously in your position.
Yep.
And this is what we do. Like, this is one of our rules. Anytime we go and do networking, I literally just got done doing this morning.
Mm-hmm.
When we network, we get somebody's card or we get a contact. Immediately the next morning, we follow up. We say, hey,
Yeah.
it was great meeting you. Let's get
Mm-hmm.
on a Zoom call. We want to hear about you and your story. And
Yep.
then we also want a chance to kind of share a little bit about us.
I love that.
And then look for a way that we can maybe collaborate in the future.
Yeah.
So we did that. We met Nicole, and she was like, yeah, I would love to do that. Let's just jump on a phone call. No problem. Got on a phone call with her, and she was like, oh my gosh, like, you guys are amazing, blah, 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 blah. How about you do our best of awards? And I was like, I mean, yeah, sure, of course we'll do that. She'd never heard us before, never heard us play. And I was kind of nervous about that because I'm like on the phone with her. I'm like, so like, do you need to hear us play or something?
Yeah.
And she was like, no. She's like, I work with people, you know. She's like, I know like working with you guys is going to be a good experience.
Yeah.
And like, so we had videos and stuff that we could send her, but she's like, I don't need them. She's like, I can tell from this conversation that you guys are going to be a good group to work with.
Yeah.
And so then we did the best of awards where, obviously at that event, there's a ton of, planners and all these things. And then from there, like stuff blew up for us getting in there in that room with people that had never seen us perform. So
I love
Nebraska
that.
Wedding Day played a pivotal part in our
I love
growth and
that.
success. So
That's very cool.
Yeah, and looking back to that, it just meant a lot that they let us do that. And that, it meant a lot that our process, before we actually do our performing, which is what our main focus is, knowing that we're reliable in that sense is really nice to hear and get that feedback. So
That's awesome. Well, you guys are definitely like very requested. Like, oh, they're going to be at the party again, right? Like, it's just kind of like assumed and a give. We really try and like for our events, like mix in and get all the members in rotation that we possibly can, and just love on all the members. But that is so much fun. It's it's rare to get a chance to just like get in front of all these wedding vendors. So it's
very
awesome.
rare. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, enough about us. This
love it.
podcast is not about us. This is about you. So, first kind of want to start off with just like your story, your background, how you got involved in the wedding industry, how you got involved with Nebraska Wedding Day. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that.
So I come from more of a hotel background, right? So, my first big girl job ever was with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did all the marketing events. So like if Best Buy had a suite at a game, right, I would make sure they had their food, like order their food and beverage with the whatever, make sure they got their tickets. Like I was kind of like the admin in the corporate sales department, executing all these agreements, right? So I did some, and I thought I was an event planner. I had no, anyway, and then we had, that was awesome, very entry level job, but it was just amazing. And so then, I had.
Did you get to meet any of the players or anything?
No,
like that? Oh,
no.
man.
I know. Isn't that kind of a bummer?
Yeah.
No, I was more just on the corporate sales, side of things. But telling you, that was like when Kevin Garnett was there and like
KG.
Latrell Sprewell and all these. It was great.
Dang, let's go.
It was fun. But so we had a holiday party at this amazing venue in Minneapolis, and it was like that scene in Wayne's World where he sees the guitar in the store and he's like, it will be mine. Oh, yes, it will be mine. I'm like, I'm going to work here. This place is amazing. Like, I have to work here somehow. And so I called the hotel the next day. I'm like an event planner. Do you have any jobs available there? Like, I had no business calling there. I had no idea what I was doing.
Wow.
You know, and they're like, nope, but we'll keep your resume on file. And then the next day they were like, just kidding. We actually like would like to interview you.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I learned. So I was catering sales manager at a hotel. So like, I mean, tours, timelines, diagrams, menus, all that stuff. And eventually, I mean, so yeah, 13, 14 years on the venue side of things at different hotels and properties. And actually got to be part of like a launch team at a really cool like restaurant event concept. So like hard hat tours with wedding planners and meeting planners, like painting the picture. I promise it's going to be cool. Like, here's what it's going to look like. So, but for me, like I wish I was creatively wired. I'm just really not. I love it all. Like I make macaroni and cheese, but I love like a beautifully plated meal, right? Or like I love to see a room come together, or like, you know, the photos and the video, but like I don't know the first thing. I just like loved being part of all this cool stuff, right? And like drawn to that creative energy. And the couples were so like, I fell in love with my couples too. And like, I think after like 13, 14 years and like 600 couples, I'm like, I'm kind of tired. Like I'm exhausted. Like what's, you know, like how am I going to sustain this, you know? So I'm like, well, how can I be part of this world and these amazing like creative people and that I love so much without like having to maybe deal with the couples anymore at this point in my life?
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, oh my, like these wedding bride magazines, you know, like that's where it's at, because that's like where I can do, that's like, I'll be the smartest person I know. Like if I can like figure out how to be like around all these amazing people without having to deal with like the weddings anymore.
Work smarter, not harder.
So, but I've always pictured like, you know, like for example, Nebraska Wedding Day is like a little like chamber of commerce for the wedding industry, right? Just here to like love on and lift up the wedding community and just share with the couples like all of the like amazing, you know, small businesses, wedding professionals that are out there. So yeah, so that's kind of how that's how it all kind of came about. It hit me like a freight train though one day. I was like, this is my end game. Like I know I'm going to be involved in these magazines, and I know that's where I'm supposed to be, because I just love like networking and like getting to know all these people, but like yeah, and just seeing all the cool stuff that they do. So yeah, so that's kind of how it came about. Yeah, that's my story. Oh, but I mean, and I think it's been really like important in my role to have had that experience, because I can relate so much to what, you know, everyone's gone through on the other side, right? We said we like to share stories, right? So I can share one that involves a band, right? Music. So there was this one couple. So my job was just kind of get everything on a piece of paper that everyone would need to know, right? And then, but being that like one person that had contact with them basically for like a year, I was always like available around how to present, answering questions that day. But then like, you know, the banquet staff would kind of like finish the execution and stuff. So whatever. So once things were really kind of going, I would peace out, you know, say goodbye and touch base and all good, right? So I was on my way out, but I'm like, wait a minute, the jazz trio isn't here yet. Like, that's weird. I'm going to call them. So I think I might have told you this before. So I called the jazz trio. I'm like, hey guys, where are you? You're supposed to be here 20 minutes ago, you know, traffic bad or can't find parking or whatever. And they're like, we got a hysterical call from the bride this morning saying the wedding is canceled. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, we're not coming. Dang. And I was like, nope. I'm looking at her right now. She's happy as can be, like eating her dinner. Like, you better get here. So he's like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy, you know, like whatever. So he's like, you know, I wrote down the number on the caller ID. This was like really like before like everyone was attached to their cell phones like this. And so I wrote the number that he gave me in Sharpie on my hand for some reason. But I went and I told the groom, I'm like, because the bride was chatting or whatever with someone else, and I'm like, hey, we're just gonna take a little extra time with dessert, no big deal, your band's on the way, they're just running a little late. And he looked at me and he looked at my hand and he goes, what did she do? I'm like, huh? He goes, that phone number on your hand. That's my ex-girlfriend. What did she do?
Oh. Wow.
I was like, she canceled your band, but it's okay. They're on their way. Don't worry.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, horrible.
I
obviously,
feel like I
horrible
could
story.
talk about these kind of stories forever, but like having those kind of stories, like definitely like helps me appreciate, like, you know, like.
Oh my gosh,
I
that
know.
is crazy.
Yes.
I know, but I mean, think about that though. Like, what do you do? Like, if you got a call from someone saying, like, "Oh my God, you know, the wedding's off. I'm not getting married today." Like, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we'd still call everybody else involved that
Right?
we knew, right? Instead of
Yeah.
just like, oh, I
Yeah,
guess we're good, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, but like I mean, like you said, it was before everybody was like on their cell phones. But
totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
we haven't had anything crazy like that happen. We did have, I mean, in all the years that we've done this, we've maybe had a wedding be canceled twice,
Yeah.
and one of them was like a similar kind of story, kind of.
Yeah.
But basically, I think I was the one that had contracted this wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was messaging the groom because I'm like, hey, you know, we're about 3 months out, like let's
Right.
you know figure out details or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like kind of being really vague with stuff. He was like, well, you know, and I was like,
Right.
we gotta kind of get some stuff figured out, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like, he just went, like, radio silence. And then the bride reached out. And she was like, have you been talking to, you know, so-and-so? And I was like, yeah, I've been, you know, trying to figure out details. And
Yeah.
she was like, the wedding is off. And she was like, I found
Oh.
out some unfortunate news
Oh,
about
yeah.
him. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay.
Now
Well,
it makes sense. I
yeah, it's
know.
all making sense now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Life happens, stuff happens, and yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. But anyway, so for the magazine though, for like
Yeah.
people that don't understand
Yeah.
what exactly it is, can you give us like a little rundown?
Yeah.
about
Thank you
what
for
it is,
asking.
What's the purpose of it?
Yeah. So we just want to share like anything wedding related, like trends, like what are people doing, you know, like, so we do, just like every issue, you might find a combination of like some styled shoots, some fashion shoots, some real weddings, some just like tips and tricks and like just really like what's ever relevant and will resonate with readers or anyone that like is in this time of their life that they're getting married. We want to share about it, you know, whether it be from like proposals, engagements, rings, gowns, like literally anything and everything, you know. So yeah, so we have, as publisher, I'm in charge of sales, right? And then we have an editor and an art director who are in charge of like the content side of things. But we get submissions from any wedding vendors, like real weddings, styled shoots. Like we want to see it all. Like we want to see all the venues. We want to see all the colors, all of the aesthetics, all of the couples. Like we want to see it all. And so we love to put it together and just have like, I mean, I like to think of it as like, it's the like wedding yearbook, you know, for Nebraska. Like, and it's kind of like a little time capsule, you know, to look back and be like, this is what weddings were like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's really fun to do too. So yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, that's kind of, I picture it as like Nebraska's wedding yearbook. So like, we love to get all these submissions and like just put it together. Our art director is amazing. Just like to look at like a gallery of photos and pick like, you know, 8 that will like look beautiful on a spread and like just get people excited. So we want the magazine, we're a full circle brand, right? So we want it to be a place where like, you can sit on a couch and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever and get excited and dream and like, you know, get ideas and like get inspired. And then you go online after that, then you can go to your devices and like figure out how to actually put it all together and how to make those ideas and all those, you know, things you got inspired about yours. And you can find your dream team. And we have a cool planning portal dashboard that couples can create for free, and they can make a wedding website and their guests can RSVP there and they can keep track of their checklist, you know, but so that's where like the full circle comes in. So yeah, the magazine is kind of where you get inspired and learn about some of the, you know, wedding professionals and just ideas, but then you can go online and really like put it all together too. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah. A yearbook, a wedding yearbook.
Yeah. It comes out twice a year. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And even just in, because I took a look at the magazine yesterday and, we were looking at it. We had a picture in there, shout out to our social media team.
Yeah.
But as I was looking through it, it was I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing, And it's almost like you forget because we spend so much time scrolling and like looking for inspiration or things there that you kind of forget like how nice it is to be able to like actually like flip through things and look at different. So yeah, the magazine is, beautifully put together. And,
thank you.
Yeah. And are you finding that like couples and parents and all those things are coming to the magazine for inspiration and then going online at kind of like you just described? Oh,
for sure. I mean, it's like kind of a thing, right? The first thing you do, you get engaged and you get a magazine. You get a magazine and you get engaged and you either are gifted or like you go buy, all the bride magazines. You buy them all. You try and get like all the ideas. And it's like cannot be understated how much like we in Nebraska and the Midwest, whatever, love our local, right? So the fact that it's local, like, yeah, it's just so fun. We actually send a few copies to every sorority house in the state of Nebraska too.
Wow.
I know we've been tagged a couple times on like study breaks and stuff, so that's really fun. So like, so that's really fun too. But yeah, it's just one of those things, like I think we all, especially like just the life that we're in right now, all are just wanting something good, something that like looks cute, like looks pretty, you can get inspired by, but like isn't on a device. We're wanting to put our devices away and just like turn it all off, So it's a great opportunity for that. That can
be really hard to take a break. And I didn't know that you guys were doing that and sending those things out. But yeah, no, I think that's awesome. So
yeah, it's really fun. It's amazing to see it all come together too. Like we get, all the submissions and stuff that we get like are just so fun to sort through and see like what is going on,
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned something about time capsules with just being a part of the magazine and seeing how things have changed over the years. I'm just kind of curious more about like what have you seen that's changed with like trends and like are there things that are coming back sooner than you expect at all, or is it always just evolving in a certain amount of time?
That's such a great question, and I guess it depends on like the category we're talking about, like we're talking about food, are we talking about gowns, are we talking about whatever. But I think the rule right now is like there's really like are no trends, right? Like, well, and I mean that by like everyone just does what they want to do. Sure. And I think that's really, really cool. Like, there's no rules anymore. Like, there's nothing that you have to do. Like, whatever, like, excites you, like, that's what you should do, Like, I think people are spending, like, same amount of money on a wedding or even more, but, like, they're willing to, like, do what they want to do, Like, they're willing to just really go all out with, like, the things that they care about and then, like, maybe they'll pass on stuff that they're not like passionate about, but like to be able to like go to this next level and make sure what they are passionate about is like exactly what they're going to get. So I think that's kind of the trend right now, if you will, that like there's no rules.
Yeah.
And there's no
rule.
The trends are there are no yeah but I think we're definitely seeing a lot of like and our editor loves to use this word, like juicy colors. Like I think colors definitely coming back, and I think there's a lot of like change of clothes from like the ceremony to the reception, which is fun, even for guys. Like, changing out of that collared shirt and your dress shoes and putting on sneakers and like a different shirt under it, or like whatever. We're seeing that, and just and like even too, I mean, there's no even real like firm way you have to like structure your night anymore, like you can have like
very true.
Have like a salad and then like have like some maybe have you guys play dancing, a set have a salad and then some live music and then go back and have your main meal and then end with like a so like I don't know, there's just really no like rules anymore, which is really kind of nice.
Yeah, that is really true. Because I was thinking, with doing the magazine and everything, and just with the nature of what you guys do, it's like you kind of have to be ahead of the curve and essentially like predicting these trends. But now that you say that, it is more kind of just like I mean, really, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Nothing is, I guess, really trendy, and we see so many different things throughout the year. We see the classic formal black and white. We see the like juicy colors, as you mentioned. We've seen like the grooms changing their clothes, the brides changing their clothes, and we've been a part of the receptions where it's like there's no dinner. It's just heavy hors d'oeuvres, and they just care about partying. And, so yeah, that's. Yeah.
Isn't that cool? I know there's a caterer that I was talking to, and they said like their first question is just like to the couples is like sit down and just tell us like how do you like if you were to have like a dinner, like people over, would it be a dinner party? Would it be just like a hangout? Would it be a barbecue? And then like let's like kind of just go with that, so like even that like is really I think it. So you've seen it all too, which is really. Yeah, it's fun to see that there are no rules anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that with, we have kind of, we're constantly talking about how technology is, always getting better. But I would say in our industry, like, yes, we use technology, but I was going to say, like, we're seeing the things that we can do as far as weddings and, like, the events that we put on, like, they just continue to get better and better. So it is like what you're saying, when a bride really is like a bride and groom or whoever, has the vision, it really can be, executed. They're like, oh, I want this thing hanging from the ceiling. It's like, all right, let's do it. I mean, we've seen it all. So.
Exactly. And it's so fun. That's what we love about it. Like, it's so fun to see a whole variety for sure.
I think the most memorable weddings for me is when I see that personality shine through, like how they did their food. Like I remember one time, it was last March, I think, we went to a wedding and the bride and groom had like each of their own favorite pizza, and then they had like the meter to see whose pizza was the most popular or whatever.
I love that.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And it was all laid out, like it wasn't a traditional sit down dinner. Like they had all of the pizzas laid out on different like tables and stuff. And you just went up and grabbed it yourself, and I thought that was really cool. So
Well,
see, those little things are so fun.
Yeah.
I was talking about the St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the craziest weddings that we've ever been, because that was only like the tip of the iceberg. Like everything in that wedding was so customized, and shout out to Rachel J. Events. She was the planner on that wedding. Shout out to Cottonwood Hotel. That's where it was. But like everything, I mean, that was like a wedding experience.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like you're going to a reception. Like, everything was customized. Like they had the little, monogrammed drinks or whatever. They had the pizza. They were one of the couples that they didn't do the dinner. They did the heavy hors d'oeuvres, and they had like this ice luge. They had this huge dance floor with their name on it. Like it was crazy.
There's definitely a lot of cool things like that, like the ice and all that. But a lot of it was really simple. I feel like anybody could do that, and that's just a unique way to celebrate and kind of do something different than what most other people might do. So
I love that. And it's not just like going through a checklist anymore. It's like that kind of stuff makes it just like intentional and like so personal. And that's, like you said, that's the ones you're going to remember and the ones you have the most fun with,
That was a fun wedding.
I love it.
So for the magazine, and you said you've got, vendors, submitting stuff and things like that. I think that there are some who maybe, don't see the value of like, advertising, because it's advertising, in the magazine, that don't maybe necessarily see the value in that. So why do you think that for vendors in our industry that advertising is crucial?
I love this question. Okay, so so I think like this website and this planning portal that I just talked about is like new, right? So it's really so I guess I'll say like we are a brand that is full circle. So we're going to be a brand that gives like all kinds of tools, right?
Yeah.
So we're not just, a print ad, right? You are online as well. And so, kind of like that whole spectrum, right? So my favorite question is always to ask, like when I have the first initial, like a year from now, how are we going to gauge success, right? Is it 10 more weddings, or is it 2 weddings who don't ask you for a discount and really appreciate what you're doing, and these 2 weddings that are going to be at the venues that you want to be in with the planners and the team that you want to be with, and like elevating that caliber, right? Because there's marketing, it's like there's branding, which is just getting your word out there. But also I always felt like when I was on the venue side of things, when we were a member, it's like I always felt like there was that little less follow-up I had to do, that one less pulling of teeth I had to do. So like, do you want to close your sales cycle? Like, being a member can help with that. Do you want to feel more confident when you need to raise your rates? Like I always felt more confident when I needed to like raise my rental rates on the venue side of things, or ask for more catering money because we were a member. And I knew that like couples, it's not lost on couples that it's an investment to be a member, right? So they like, okay, well, if they're a member, they're invested, they're relevant, they're networked, they're just going to give me the best day. And I'm going to pay for that. That's a value to me. That's important to me. So, and then so this website stuff now is there because, we know, again, it has to be full circle. So, we obviously want to connect the members and the couples in a bigger, better way than we ever have in the past with just the magazine, right? So the website is really helping us with that. So I think that's an important question too. It's not, like a year from now, like I said, how are you going to judge success? Is it going to be 20 leads that you got from, couples that maybe didn't even read your profile or really know what you're about kind of thing? Or is it going to be, people who saw you in the magazine and know like the caliber of like other wedding planners or wedding professionals that you work with, or like the places that you are at frequently, or so like I think that's, and then I try and like, okay, well, here's your goal. Like a year from now, if you tell me this is how you're going to judge success, then like let's talk about the tools I have to help you reach that, right? So I mean, I have some members who are like, whatever, whatever my competitor's doing, I want a bigger size, I mean, and that's, hey, like, we're just want to prove that, whatever, like that's what's important to them. Right. And so there's some of that, and there's some of, if I can't book, if I can't trace or track 5 weddings to you by this time next year, it's not going to be success. Right. So there's like all of those conversations, and we just try and like really, I try and help, okay, here's all the kind of tools that we have to like help us get there for you, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what it comes down to, and we do have a lot of different tools.
Yeah.
Both digital, and we have an e-newsletter as well. I should definitely mention that. It's awesome. It comes out once a month. It's a lot of content from the magazine, but also there's some advertising options in there too. So, so that's kind of like my strategy, or my like thought process when like trying to talk to wedding professionals on how to, because I really do want to be a true partner. I don't want to say like, oh, give me your money, I'm going to put you out in the magazine and then I'll talk to you again next year. Like that's not, that's not what you guys are laughing, because that's exactly, because it's so like not us. And I love that, because we really are true members. And like I said, like I truly think of us as like this like organization that can just like lift up all of these awesome wedding professionals. And that's what I want to do, and in a way that is going to be felt and perceived as success by the wedding professionals, So
yeah,
it definitely feels that way.
That's my goal.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think that what you had mentioned about if somebody's going through the magazine, they're looking through, they know that it's high quality, vendors that are in the magazine. And on the other side of it, for the vendors, like I just thought about it while you were talking about it, it's like I feel like almost everybody, or a lot of the vendors that are in there, are vendors that we've worked with, because we're involved and we're going to the mixers and things like that. I have kind of like my own like thoughts or story about this, but I want to hear from you first on,
oh gosh,
on, you know, because you said you have people that are like, oh, well, if, you know, if we don't see an increase of 5% by next year,
sure,
you know, then we're out. But surely you have, you know, these vendors that have these amazing success stories that they're sharing with you because of being a part of the magazine. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite stories. So I had a pastry chef who was a pastry chef at a hotel and then left and started her own business, right? And so she made a point to, okay, every week I'm going to reach out to 3 different members, just like, hey, member to member, wanted to say hi, introduce myself. Can I mail you a tasting box? Can we get coffee? Kind of like you mentioned earlier, you know, that networking, but just saying like that, like, hey, member to member, like you feel like you're part of something, right? So, I mean, that just opens up the door to like, hey, can I get on that referral list? Like, hey, like if you actually, you know, experience a little bit of what I have to offer. And she had that ability because she's a pastry chef, right? But whatever your specific thing might be, right? You know? Yeah. And so and took it like manageable, you know, like every week she reached out to 3 different members. And I know just by getting on those referral lists and making those connections, that's where she saw value in being a member, was really the other like wedding professional connections. And I loved that so much. Another photographer, kind of similar. A lot of venues do like group tastings, right? So everyone who's getting married in the next 9 months can come and do a group tasting at a venue, right? So they kind of knock it all out at once, and you can talk to the other couples too and see what they're doing and see all the other, you know, kind of partner members they are, wedding professionals a venue might work with or whatever. So a photographer really reached out and was like, hey, if you do any group tastings, I'd love to take some pictures, or, you know, just like member to member wanted to, you know, connect on a bigger, better way, right? And so I think that's like, I love hearing those success stories for sure, you know? But yeah, certainly we hear too, like, oh, you know, so-and-so found me, you know, I got 3 couples that found me on the profile and ended up booking 2 of them. And they were like, you know, they appreciated everything and it was so great. And, you know, so yeah, of course, like, you know, we hear, you know, everyone kind of tracks, like, how did you hear about us, you know? So that Nebraska wedding day or whatever connection is always great. So yeah, so those are, I love to hear all those success stories for sure. Yeah, no,
that's amazing. I think that, like, don't be mad at me, but I think there was like, we were in it we've been in it for the last 2 or 3 years. 2 years maybe. Yeah. But we were in it, and I feel like I forgot that we were in it. Yeah. And then somebody came up and they're like, oh my gosh, we saw you in Nebraska Wedding Day magazine. Yeah. And I was like, what? And then they had a magazine with them and they showed me. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, we're in the magazine.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, yeah, and that's why, so we know that, you know, that's great. We need to have the magazine, but also, you know, that's why we've worked really hard on our website too, is to make sure we can connect the dots in a even deeper way too. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that, the website and the portal is amazing, and especially for now, in this day and age with, you know, everything happening basically digitally. So exactly. I think that's great. So, as far as what you're doing and like how, because I mean, in some sense, you're kind of consulting with these different vendors.
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, and with these different vendors and things like that, and so it must feel, you know, really good to hear those success stories, and then feel like, I don't know if you do feel this, but like you played kind of a part in that, so.
Totally. It makes my heart so happy. There's one who's like a pet attendant. Okay. So like, you know, if you want JoJo in your wedding, right? They'll go to your house, bring the dog to the wedding, make sure they're there for pictures and stuff, you know,
I didn't
and
know that existed.
Send them home, right? But like, you know, it's interesting because I get to talk to a lot of my like favorite thing to do is to talk to these wedding professionals who are like, you know, been doing this for a couple of years, you know, and you know, definitely know what they're doing, definitely professional, definitely experienced, all that stuff. But like, it's that, you know, at some point it's kind of this like, well, they might have been doing something else as well. And so they like that like kind of leap point where they're like, okay, I'm going to like build a team. I'm going to like, this is my like, you know, or maybe they've been able to like make a living being a pet attendant for a year for weddings. But now they're like, okay, I want to build a team. I want to like help, you know, other people do this too. So like, I think my favorite is to like have these conversations with some who are maybe at that crossroads of like, I'm just going to dive in and go bigger and really get my name out there, or I've raised my rates and like I need to, just kind of whatever, like kind of that like crossroads where you're like taking that leap or going to that next level, you know, and then a year later they'll be like, I'm so glad I did this, like, it was so great, and I really think you're a big part of that. And so that is like, it's really, really great to hear all those success stories too.
Being on the other side of that, and it's a story that you hear just like so much, in our industry, but also, I mean, for small business owners, like all of the vendors are, well, most of them small business owners, is that they have that piece, kind of like that, what's it called in Spider-Man?
Oh.
The piece?
No, the origin, the event that makes them.
Oh, like the.
Yeah, what is that word? I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like
the point something.
Yeah, when everything.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, when everything just clicks.
Yeah. The canon event.
There you go. There you go. Yes, we love being part of all of that.
Yeah. So, anyways, I feel like everybody has that, and it is centered around when they're like, "Oh yeah, I just took this, this leap of faith," and I'm there right now where I'm, full time with what we do.
Yeah.
And you like always hear the other side of it, like, "Oh, I'm so glad," but I'm in the middle of it right now, so I'm like, man, this is really scary. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. But it's so cool to be able to hear people's stories.
Well, and it's like just being who I talk to on a daily basis, like the florists, the like musicians, entertainment groups, like whatever. Everything in weddings is very like personal, just in general, and even wedding professionals are putting themselves out there. So like it's not just like I'm like, it's much more than a business is what I'm
right.
And I understand that, and like that means a lot too, like it's not lost on me that like they're not just like investing, like they're investing like their own, a lot of themselves, like personally, like to put your like even your food out there, or your bakery items out there, or your design work, or your flowers, or your music. Like that's huge. Like that's a lot. Like it's personal. And so, to put, be part of that in someone's business is really special. It really is, because it's not lost on me at all. And I really love that, because like the connections we make are just like, oh, they're my client. Like, I don't think I've ever used that word like client, like it's like this member, this awesome artist, or this awesome musician, or this awesome, beautiful space, like, and I think that's why I don't really picture myself as much of like a salesperson, to be honest. But like, I think, because I don't feel like I do sales. Like, I feel like I'm just like meeting lots of cool people. And that's what I love.
Yeah. I definitely get that from you too. No, maybe I just hadn't even noticed it until you said something like that, because I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know that you did sales. Like, I'm being honest. I didn't know that was your. I didn't know that was your thing. But I think that just speaks to just the interactions that we've had with you. At all of these different events, and you speak so highly of all of the people that are involved. With everything, even in just like a regular conversation. If anything, I would say you're like more of a, salesperson to like the people like in our space. You know, like you've got to connect with them. They're really great at this. You've got to connect with them. They have amazing this. Like, I've personally heard you speak about other vendors in that way. So I think that speaks volumes to you. But now I guess I know that you do sales, so there's that.
It's fun. I mean, ultimately, and there's obviously synergy between, you can't print a magazine without making making some money, right? So so my job, that's day in, day out to get members on board, right? But of course there's synergy with like the other side of it too, right? So it's good.
That's what makes it so successful.
For sure. And I think that's
the key ingredient.
I think that's interesting that you don't even really necessarily view it in that way.
Yeah.
I think I guess it's hard for me, I guess, because I see stuff in so black and white, you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is a magazine.
Yeah.
It's advertising.
Yeah.
You send it out, and it's interesting to hear your perspective because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, obviously you have like the logistical side of things where you're like, yes, we're a magazine, we have to make money. But
Mm-hmm.
hearing you just talk about the magazine and the process, it sounds like you don't even view it really, you know, like that. I'm here like, all right, tell me about these campaigns that these vendors are they're running, and it sounds like you don't really view it in that way.
I mean, no, I feel like I'm definitely more of a connector. Like, you know, I think first and foremost, like, we need something relevant that the couples are going to love, because otherwise, if no one's reading it and no one loves it, then why is anyone going to want to, like, be a part of it, right? So obviously that's, like, first and foremost. But I mean, like, I'm super competitive. Like, I'm very, like, as far as sales go, like, I want the next issue, like, the bigger the book, the more members we have, right? So, like, I'm already like, okay, what's my goal to have for, like, I want a bigger book, you know? I want a bigger book next issue. I want to share more about weddings next issue. So, like, what can I do to, like, get that revenue, to, like, get more, you know? Yeah. But and day in and day out, I'm, like, researching and looking at, like, who are, like, what florist did some amazing weddings this last week on Instagram, and let me reach out to them. Like, I'm constantly, like, I mean, probably, like, over 50 emails a day, just like, hey, like, you seem awesome, let's talk, you know, or like, hey, like, you haven't, you know, let's revisit, let's circle back, let's press a restart button, like, you know, what's this year look like, you know, that kind of stuff. So but
I think we can actually personally speak to that, because we have another business company in the wedding industry, Chips and Dip.
Yes.
Photo Co., our photo booth company.
Yes. Oh my God.
And you reached out to us, and you were like, hey, what's going
That's right,
on?
Yeah.
And I called you immediately, and I was like, Brooke.
That's
I
me.
was like, that's us.
That's so cool. Yes, you experienced that exactly. I know. I was like, hey, what's this all about? I want to learn more.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
I think that's great, too. And, you know, this kind of just keeps coming back to, like, networking and stuff like that. But I just feel like that is so important, to be intentional and reaching out to different companies, or when we have the mixers and stuff, following up and setting those, you know, I think every business should do that. Business owner should set a goal of, I'm going to network with this many people, or and that can look different. You know, the pastry chef is, you know, hey, we're going to send you, you know, these samplings or this box.
Yep.
For us, it's a little bit, you know, different.
Yeah.
Because most of what we're doing, we're playing like weddings. It's not like we can just invite a bunch of people to somebody's wedding. But I just think, that's so important. And actually, can I see that magazine? I see you keep wanting to lift it up. You know, I just want to,
maybe I'm just, like,
make
nervous
sure. Which camera? This one right here, right? This one, let's get a nice shot of that. Looks great. And whenever, like I was telling you last night, whenever you need, you know, somebody else to grace the cover of the magazine, I'm always ready to go. I'm always ready.
I love it.
So I want to shift gears just a little bit, talking about, you know, the couples and things like that.
Yeah.
We had, you know, chatted a little bit about this earlier, but why do you think it's so important for the couples? You know, you said they get engaged and then they grab the magazine and then, you know, they're going through there. Why do you think that's so, you know, important for them when they're doing their planning, to be able to see, like, a bunch of different vendors, you know, in the magazine?
Well, I think I feel like we're all researchers these days, right? So we love to research, and we love to, you know, make sure that we're doing our due diligence, right? I think that's one thing we've learned. Like, nobody likes, especially, like, I don't know, there's a lot of scammers these days or whatever, right? But I feel like we all like to feel good about, like, having done our due diligence with any decision, right?
Yes.
And especially when it costs a lot of money, you know, I think we all just like want to feel like we're making good decisions. And I think, you know, whether it be online or whatever, it's just like that extra like affirmation, like, oh, I saw them in here and there, like they're legit, and you know, that kind of thing. Like, but I think just like to dream a little bit. Like, I think that's the best part about this is like, it's really your time. Like it's a really special time in your life. Like there's no other time where you can like dream about planning your wedding and dream about like how the day is going to be. And like, you know, it doesn't matter what, you know, I mean, and it's really fun to see like all the different, you know, seasons of life too. Like I just was completely in love with the Golden Bachelor seasons. Like our magazine, you know, like, so whether you're like in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, like we want just like to inspire and get ideas. And I think too, like part of wedding planning is like, it's a lot. Like it can be, I think that's a big part of it too. Like it's a lot. Like what, like they say like trauma is like too much too fast. Yeah. Sometimes wedding planning is traumatic. And you need like to feel like you're not alone and to feel like you're not the only, like, yeah, I think there's something to that, to be like, okay, this is gonna be fine. Like I'm not the only person that's ever like been wedding planning before. And look at like there's a lot of other people like planning their wedding and like they're all going through similar things. So like what are they doing? Like what am I forgetting about? What should I be thinking and processing, you know? But I think that's part of it too. Like you, when you're going through something that's like something you've never experienced, you know, experiencing anything for the first time, you like to know that you're not like alone in it, right? So I think that's kind of part of it too, whether you're, you know, what season of life you're in or like what your situation is. I think like wedding planning is like a core like connector for a lot of people going through that same thing in their life. So I think that's what makes it really kind of unique too, you know?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it in that way. Like this could be something that's so traumatic for you.
I mean, whether I mean, and not even like in a bad way. Like it's just a lot, you know, like whether the decisions come easy and whether everything comes easy, it's still like a lot, you know? And so I think that's like, you know, whenever we go, I think that's just what it is. When we go through something like that, especially, you know, I don't know, it's just interesting, especially if maybe you're like, you know, maybe the first one of your friend groups to get married, or like, you know, you're like maybe the first one of your like work friends, or like you're just wanting to do something different, you know? So yeah, I think that's kind of like why people, part of the reason why people like it. Yeah. To see something pretty and just like feel like you're not alone either, you know, with this crazy kind of interesting time that you're in. I don't know.
No, yeah. I think that's great. That makes total sense. And I guess also, you know, I had never really thought about that. You said, you know, we're, especially in this day and age, so accustomed, I think, to the research, you know, and people do want to be very well researched. Like, you know, it's not like, you know, you go to a job interview, you know, you've got your resume, it's got all your references on there. It's like the same with these couples and the vendors. Like they want to know that like you've been around, that you've seen a thing or two, and they do that by sourcing you in all these various different ways. You know, they go and take a look at your Instagram, they look at your Facebook, they look at your website, they look to see you in stuff that's like, reputable and you know.
Exactly. And if they do all those checks and balances and they're like, okay, well, their work looks good, or they look talented, or, you know, from everything, they're going to pay for it. Yeah. You know, they're going to pay top dollar for it, because they don't, you know, no one likes to feel like they're taken advantage of, or like, you know, been made a fool of, right, by making a poor decision, and or just one that, you know, they haven't checked out or they don't feel good about. So like, and I think that's part of it too. Once you're like they've done all of that, but then they see you in, you know, something reputable like a magazine, it's like, okay,
I can make this decision. Yeah, and also you don't even know, because they're doing so many forms of research, like, I guess for the vendors, you know, that are like, oh, maybe it's not worth it for me to advertise in this way or whatever. Like, you don't know, because they could have seen you in the magazine and then checked out your Instagram and then reached out to you.
Oh my gosh, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah. Like that just came to me, like just now, because they might have seen you in a magazine, gone to Instagram, then gone to your website, then saw you in person.
Yes.
And they don't even realize that.
Yes.
But all of those things together, they're like, oh, okay, you are.
Yes.
So maybe it wasn't worth it, like in the sense that you think, but because they've sourced you and vetted you, like it does ultimately end up becoming worth it. You know what I mean?
Totally. So I send out like pretty regular like email updates, whatever, to all the members. Think you get them, but just like, hey, like don't forget to submit your weddings, or here's what's going on, or whatever. But at the end of the year, I sent out one that was like, here's ways to maximize your membership. So we do some blogging, right? So like in December or mid-November, whatever, our digital editor was like, hey, like doing an article on 2024 trends, and asked all of our members, like, what do you got? What are you seeing? Let's put together. So, there's ways to collaborate. So that was like one example of like how to maximize your membership, whatever. But another one was, like, I just picked like 4 random ones and went on their website, and all 4 of them had an inquiry form, and all 4 of them had the question, how did you hear about me? And all 4 of them had like one drop down, like they could only pick one drop down option. And we were only included, they were members, like they were paying, and only two out of the 4. So half of them had us listed as like option number 1. But number 2, I'm like, these couples have gone to every single one of these, and you're asking them to pick one. So like so that was one of my encouragements on how to maximize your membership, was to, on any inquiry forms that any wedding professional has, like that question is great. How did you hear about us? But like, how easy to have it be like a check all that apply, right? Instead of like pick one. I'm calling you guys out right now.
Right. I was like, dang, I think, yeah, we should do that.
Because we are all like, we want to do our due diligence, especially when it involves a lot of money. So I think they are not just going to one place. They are checking everything out. So check all that apply, because then you're really going to get a better gauge, Yeah.
Man, I'm like mind blown right now.
Yeah.
And that's a simple tweak too.
It's so easy. And that is definitely one easy way to maximize membership. But yeah.
And I mean, I'm a little bit of a nerd in the sense of like, I like the numbers and stuff, like trends, like analytics is something I like. I just love it. My degree's in psychology. I love research, all that. So when we're going through at the end of the year and seeing like, okay, where are our couples coming from?
Yep.
I didn't even think about it in that way, because
that's
actually a more accurate depiction of where things are coming from. If it is like, I saw you here, I saw you here, I saw you there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that, because I love to share that. It's true.
Yeah. I was also going to ask, as far as, well, first of all, were we one of the 4 that you like checked out our website?
I just said I'm calling you guys out.
So we were one of them. We'll get that.
We appreciate you calling us out.
Yeah, we'll get that changed.
Yeah, we're gonna change.
No, like you say though, it just is, and it's. I mean, it's easy just to put this form together and be like, oh, we'll just have them pick one, But yeah.
Dang. Don't worry, we'll make the change here very soon. Yeah. The other question that I had for you is, when it comes to the vendors and why they should be a member. I mean, we've talked about all these, different reasons, but I guess if you could maybe just sum it up, and like something quick, like this is why it's important to be involved in this.
Well, I think for me, it just comes down to like, being a member is a great like networking for one, like, and like we said too, just like if nothing else, a support system to feel like you're in this together day in, day out. It's a very personal thing, like just so you feel like you're like part of something bigger, right? But also in terms of couples and like making that bigger connection, it just really shows that you're relevant, you're networked, you're going to give the best day ever, and you're among good company, right?
Yeah.
Like elevated and that higher achieving organizations and companies attract higher and elevated organized, couples and other members to work with, so like I think that's part of it
even
too.
just by association.
Yeah.
I think that is
elevated by association.
Yeah, that's pretty huge, because if I see that you're connected with some huge brand, I'll be more likely to take you seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever that association looks like,
Yeah.
Whether it's for us like a band, like oh, you guys played at Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's pretty high recognition there.
And I always say too that I'm a big believer the timing has to be right and it just has to make sense, right? So, if someone is just getting started, like I'm not afraid to tell anyone like, hey, like maybe your association with us this year can just be like coming to our events, You're not a member yet? Okay. Like just come to our events, feel it out, get that experience, and get some more weddings under your belt, feel it out, enjoy networking, and then we'll revisit, next year, see where you're at,
Wow.
So
what do you say to those, that just made me think of, I guess, what do you say to those people that might see, I don't want to call it like a group, but like these circles, like, oh, are you a part of Nebraska Wedding Day? That look at it and be like, oh, it's so cliquey, or like it's hard to get in from the outside. Like, what do you say to those people that have those reservations? Because I mean, I've heard that, and I'm like, I was like, that's not my experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think. Well, first of all, with all of our events or a magazine or anything, I want to create FOMO. Like, I want any wedding professional who's not part of it to feel like, how do I be involved?
We should have,
Yeah. But I think, and me, like, doing what I've been doing and just, like, reaching out, like, I heard so many times last night, like, oh, like, we were just talking about this before we even started recording. There's so many people that you hadn't seen for a long time or that you didn't even know that you met for the first time. So that made my heart so happy, because that like is exactly what I wanted to do, like, and show like, because, I mean, some people, if just maybe like, okay, like I'll feel this out, kind of a thing. But yeah, so that like I think that's like what makes us so excited, is like to see all those new faces, and just like that's how we grow, right? Is to continue to grow. And that's how we like, if we continue to just like for our events, just like continue to rotate and like mix and match different members for different things too, that's important, so we don't so we can just really like show love all around. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, definitely a big goal of ours, is to like just continue to show that like we are Nebraska Wedding Day. We're not just like, we're here for the people who want to advertise. No, like we are here for, anyone and everyone. That's why we love anyone to submit, real weddings, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when it comes to advertising, like I've really enjoyed like expanding, and I think last night's event really proved that too. Like I heard that multiple times, and that was so awesome to hear, like so many new faces, like, and that is exactly what we wanted. So yeah.
Just made your heart warm, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah. And you're also giving a space for people to like showcase even to the members. Like the members are showcasing themselves to other members, because the events that you're putting on involves the work from other members. Like whether it be rentals, floral, decorations, signage, whatever. That's all done by the members. So
yeah, and exactly. What a cool way to like showcase what they're doing. Yeah. We love that.
Just goes all back to the beginning of the conversation. We got to showcase our work. At one of these events. And change the game for us. So.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nebraska Wedding Day, the region's premier luxury wedding magazine and website, catering to engaged couples looking for the top wedding vendors across the state. The brand consists of a magazine published twice a year and a website updated daily with news and tips. Also, the new website features a curated planning portal designed to make wedding planning easier for couples. Go to neweddingday.com to learn more and follow us on Instagram at neweddingday. Yeah, so we're always, we're always expanding so that it's not like the same, so it doesn't feel, like the same. There's always, things are always changing in the industry and people are always doing new things or whatever. So we always like to, just showcase all of the wedding industry and not just, whatever, the core group, right? So, yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Is that you have like kind of a special connection with, I guess, music and musicians.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, so my husband's a full-time musician. And I think too, like not being creatively wired, like both having like been like part of this creative world, but also married to somebody who is creatively wired has helped me realize like what like blood, sweat, and tears and like personal, like just all of themselves that all of the wedding industry really puts into it. So he books himself for, wedding, like cocktail hours, ceremonies. He is, part of all kinds of different projects. But it's really fun to watch. Like, he'll be like, oh, I don't know how to respond to this bride or whatever. I'm like, I got you. Here's the timeline. Let them know this. Let them know that. Like, so that's been kind of fun. But just seeing like all of the, he'll like, let's say he plays like, he's part of like a whole bunch of different projects. So he might do like 8 to 12 weddings a year, but like for ceremonies or cocktail hours, but then a whole bunch of other stuff too. And if it's like 20 inquiries he's gotten and he books like 8 of them, he's like, oh, what am I doing wrong on all the other ones, So like, that's where I see the like, and it's personal to put yourself out there, put your music out there and, present yourself. So that's not lost on me. But it's really fun to like, see that part of it, side of it, I feel like has helped me in my job a lot. So it's fun to see all of that come together. It's crazy.
Well, we love that you're married to a musician.
He stays very busy. Again, like I love that. I wish I so badly was. Like I tried to play guitar for like a week and I wasn't Carlos Santana the first day. So I was like, I'm out.
You're like, I'm done with this. That's awesome. I also do want to say that I think that you are more creatively wired than you think.
Oh, thank you. Maybe. I probably am.
Yeah, I think that.
I probably am. I'm a good listener. I don't know about how creatively wired I am, but I definitely can't cook. And I definitely...
Back to the mac and cheese, huh?
But when it comes to wedding, networking, she can cook.
Yeah. I'm a great networker.
Let him cook. That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming and just sitting and chatting with us. And
this was so much fun.
Cooking up some stuff in the kitchen with us. So
cooking up some conversations. That's all I can do.
One thing for us is, I'm sure that you know this. Like whenever we as vendors or we're at an event, or it doesn't have to be a wedding, but an event. A lot of times we're busy with the hustle and bustle of the event. Yes. And then we will go to like the cake table or the food table at the end of the night. And we're like, oh, there's nothing left. Yes. So on our podcast, we want to make sure that we honor you and the time and commitment that you put in these events or these weddings and give you some cake from our cake table. So we've got a little, sweet. You want to take it and pass it around.
Let them eat cake. This is awesome. Thank you.
Tradition here on the podcast. We do a little cheers with our...
I love this. Cheers with